Okay, so I guess the title isn't 100% accurate. It does need charging every now and then, but this piece of kit is something seriously impressive.
The flagship phones of the modern age are something to truly marvel at. Now, more than ever, people are purchasing the latest iPhone, Samsung, OnePlus. You get the message. I can't lie, I got the OnePlus 3 when it came out, and now the OnePlus 5 is here, my fingers are itching with anticipation to purchase it. But my question to you, consumers, is, do you need it? Is it possible to spend half, nay, a quarter of the price of a shiny new iPhone 7 and still get a similar flagship experience?
I'm flying high like a bird, but my fluttering wings can keep you from pulling me down. Your mama says I'm a fool, and yeah, maybe that's true, 'cause I can't stop thinking about you.
This is the Oukitel K6000 Plus. At $170, this phone isn't rocking the hottest specs on the planet, but power isn't what this phone is oriented for. This baby is packing an 8-core MT6750 SoC, engineered with endurance in mind, with an ARM Mali T860 MP2 GPU, 4GB of DDR4 RAM, a lovely 1080p 5.5-inch display, 64GB of onboard storage, and, most importantly, a massive 6080 mAh battery. Finally, something that won't run out in a day. When you first receive the phone, it comes in this rather elegant yet standard box. Lifting up the top, we can see the phone wrapped in this silk lining. Taking it out, there is a screen protector on it, and then another screen protector underneath. This phone is full of surprises. The device also comes with a free rubber case, a feature which is so lacking on devices which cost 4 times as much. Also in the box you can find a manual in full English, a little pokey stick to access the dual SIM or SIM and microSD card tray, the 1 meter fast charger which is unfortunately EU only, and also unfortunately a micro USB connector. However, I shouldn't expect USB-C at this price. In the final compartment there is also a USB adapter which allows you to connect non-standard input devices like a USB memory stick, keyboard or mouse. The phone is made mostly out of this nice solid metal. On the rear, at the top and bottom of the device, there are these rubberized plastic sections which are likely to hide the antennas of the phone while making it much nicer to grip in the hand. It really doesn't detract from the build quality at all. On the top we have a headphone jack, although don't expect anything incredible from the built-in DAC. And then on the bottom we have that micro USB port which we all so love. 2 screws to access the internals of the phone and 2 speakers, though listening to music it appears to be a mono setup, not sure what's going on there. On the right side of the handset we have our rather wobbly power button and volume rocker. Ideally I would have liked this to be on the other side as to not accidentally meddle up the two when fumbling around in my pocket, but at least it's on one whole rocker and not 2 separate buttons for adjusting audio. On the front we have the earpiece for phone calls, sandwiched by the 6-megapixel selfie camera, the notification LED and the proximity sensor. At the bottom is a fingerprint sensor button, which I've found to be unfortunately inconsistent, but when it does work it is pretty quick. Finally, on the back there is the flashlight, which is pretty weak and a very slight protrusion of the 16-megapixel main camera, probably because of the 9.8mm thickness on this phone in order to accommodate that large 6000 mAh battery. Thankfully, when the phone is on a flat surface, the camera bump does not cause the phone to wobble when the sides are tapped, like my OnePlus 3.
The thickness of the phone is noticeable, but honestly it feels more comfortable in my hand.
When you first power on the phone, you'll be welcomed with this nice Android 7.1 Nougat, which provides a fresh and vanilla feel with the phone. There is also no bloatware, a definite plus in my book. As you'd expect from this pretty much stock Android, multitasking is a breeze, especially with that 4GB of RAM. I could load up 20 apps and have them all open instantly when I go back to them, including games. This will also help the phone in its later life when you'd expect it to slow down and stagnate as the updates get the better of it. There are many features like this little circle which is on the side of the screen that lets you do a variety of helpful things like gestures and...
well, actually, that's about it.
The rest are things like float video and float music, where you can have this video or music overlay over what's currently on screen, but it just doesn't feel like it's necessary. There's also lock screen, which just turns off the phone, and finally game mode, something everyone asks for. All that does is disable certain buttons so you don't accidentally press them in game. These features are all useless besides the gestures. It's a cool idea, but in reality they would go unused.
Let's talk about the screen.
This phone sports a 1920 by 1080 5.5 inch display. The colours are a little washed out, but all in all not too bad actually. Although the display doesn't really pop like some of the more expensive phones, I'd say it's definitely good for the price. Tilting the display side to side, you can notice some slight colour shifting, although otherwise the viewing angles aren't too bad, the black levels are nice and deep, and so watching films is more than enjoyable. The screen feels snappy and responsive without any noticeable stutter. The screen is also covered in a screen protector, but just having it in my pocket throughout the day with my earphones and card, as you can see, it scratches quite easily.
The specs aren't anything to write home about. Yes, it's an 8-core CPU, but fuck. The specs aren't anything to write home about. Yes, it's an 8-core, but it's built to be efficient and conserve battery life, and this seriously reflects the 3D Mark and Geekbench scores.
I'm gonna say now, you can get a phone with a much better CPU than this at the price, but it definitely has more to offer than just most phones. Playing any game on the App Store is still smooth. I'm yet to find one that's going to be unplayable, but let's be real, these are mobile games. It can run any app you want it to run. In this regard, it's no different to the OnePlus 5 or the Galaxy S8. One of the main reasons to purchase this phone, however, is because of the battery life, and it is marvellous.
When I first got this phone, I had no idea how big the battery was. It wasn't until I took it on a holiday and it started to last for days and days and days that I realised its extra girth isn't just for nothing.
I used this phone as my secondary device over there. When we went out, I took it out with me to capture my surroundings, message friends and family, and also listen to music. With regular use, including playing music from when I left my house to when I landed in Bulgaria, it lasted for 3 days and then died on the 4th.
This phone is no joke. If you keep the brightness at 35%, make sure your RAM's always clear and use flight mode when internet isn't necessary, you may even be able to keep it going longer than I did.
Charging is pretty quick too. Using the provided charger, it was full in under 2 hours, easily. That's 2 hours for nearly 4 days of use. Not too bad.
The camera of this phone is pretty much exactly what you'd expect at this price. It's pretty mediocre.
Low light performance is decent, but pictures do come out a tad on the softer side of things. Things in real low light conditions present a very grainy outcome, something you'd very much expect at this price point.
The camera app, however, isn't too bad. In fact, I found it quite intuitive.
There's this pro mode which lets you change a few settings like exposure, white balance and ISO, but unfortunately not the focal point. For some reason there's also this preset effects thing, and I don't know why anyone would use this. I mean, come on, it's not 2011. And there's also this beauty mode, which we all, again, like many other features of this phone, so love.
And finally, the video mode.
Okay, so when you're outside, the video is okay. No 4K video with this one, so you're left with 1080p. There is a reasonable amount of quality in the surroundings, but it does feel as soon as you go inside, the camera has been smeared with Vaseline. Even a slight drop in light leads to a very grainy image and loses detail very quickly. Furthermore, the electronic image stabilization just isn't that great. Optical image stabilization would have been preferred, although to be honest, it's not a necessity given the price point. When choosing the video recording quality, there isn't resolution options, there's just low, medium, high, and fine.
I honestly have no idea what this means, as you cannot quantify it. Please use resolutions.
The speakers on this phone are also pretty poor. There are 2 speakers present, but as I said earlier, sound only plays out of one in a mono setup.
I'm not entirely sure why this is, or why they aren't both used. At half volume, the experience is as you would expect, although albeit a bit quiet.
The sound is pretty tinny, but as soon as you put it up to max volume, the sound becomes distorted and you can hear it peaking over the song. Honestly, even at this price, I had hoped for a slightly better speaker. In comparison to my OnePlus 3, which isn't the best speaker in the world as it is, there is just a clear comparison.
There is no warm bass on the K6000 Plus, just pretty uncomfortable highs.
So is this phone worth it? You know, I'd still think I'd say yes. Even if you have a modern flagship phone, I think this may still appeal to you.
It doesn't matter whether it's a budget primary or secondary device because you can easily justify the price.
apps run smoothly, you get a good and intuitive user experience on the phone. Its huge battery means you can take it to festivals or on long journeys to use as a source of entertainment, where your regular phone would easily die.
Sure, the phone may only have single band Wi-Fi, it may not have NFC, and the camera may be a bit shoddy, but the rest of the phone is still extremely functional. And for $180 I can say with absolute certainty that this is definitely a warranted purchase.
For a quarter of the price of the flagship phone, it becomes increasingly hard to justify the purchase of leading spec phones, when all they give you for the extra price is a more refined product.
Thank you very much for watching this video. If you're interested in picking this phone up, there'll be a link to it down below in the description. If you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to show your appreciation by tapping that like button. I love your face, and I will see you guys in the next one. Ta-ra!